Greetings one and all, and welcome back to Robocraft and to another build tutorial, this time for the Firestorm Mark II. No, not the Hellstorm, because Halloween is over, despite what Robocraft is trying to tell us by giving us the wings still. But since they're there, we're going to use them, because we're not going to get that much use out of them before the event is over. But yes, we are going to be building the Firestorm in this build tutorial, and I've already started us out with a prism block. But before I get going, as I have done in the previous build tutorial, I've gone to the effort of working out how many blocks we used in the original Firestorm. Now, as with all of my build tutorials, this is done from memory, so I'm not sure how accurate this is going to be. So these block numbers are a rough guide to how many you're going to need. But for the Firestorm, you're going to need at least 128 tier 6 cubes and 60 tier 6 prisms. Give or take, depending on how accurately I can recreate it or how much I can improve it whilst we're rebuilding it. Of course, if you want to use a different type of armor cube, you're more than welcome to. That will affect the tier, and that goes for all components, really. Especially for weapons. You can probably adjust that quite significantly. Now, let's start with the component list, and of course, we will start with the most important parts. The Union flag. We have 2 of them, as well as 2 double vapor trails. You don't need these. It's just absolutely optional, but your bot will work better if you have them. Trust me. Now, as for our EWAR, we have a T7 radar jammer and a Tier 5 radar. We also have 3 alignment rectifiers. Now, I know you might be wondering, why on earth you got alignment rectifiers on a flyer? Trust me, they do come in handy from time to time. We also have 2 tier 7 shields and 2 tier 6 shields. These are generally arranged on the bottom, but you could go to the effort of adding more shields to the top, though squeezing them in would be a bit of a problem, but I encourage you to experiment. We have 3 tier 3 rudders and 2, tier 3 rudders, 3 tier 8 rudders and 2 tier 8 aerofoils. Of course, you can use the regular ones. You could easily get away with using tier 7 aerofoils and rudders as well, but they'll have a little bit less armor and a little bit less lift, so you'll have to be correcting your position a little bit more actively. We also have 6 tier 7 thrusters, as well as 4 tier 5 thrusters and 2 tier 2 thrusters. 4 tier 4 thrusters, I should say, and 2 tier 2 thrusters. Finally, for weapons. Now, the Firestorm Mark II is primarily an Interceptor and thus uses SMGs. And for its SMGs, it has 1 tier 6 SMG, 2 tier 7s, and 3 tier 8s to give it just enough power to tangle with anything with significant armor or shielding, as most flyers do have. But you can probably easily reconfigure this to be a plasma bomber, and in fact, that might be a future project of mine. Now then, I have begun us with a tail section, and we're going to build out from there. Now, with the Firestorm, we are going... I keep wanting to say... if you're wondering why I'm tripping over my words, it's because I've gotten used to calling it the Hellstorm now. But you want to bring it out about 3, and then branch out like this so that we can have the... In fact, I'll put them on first, because they're a fairly important part of this design. It's kind of like an X-Wing configuration, only 2 of them. There we are. We'll set that up here. Now these ones at the back, they're for affixing our vapor trails, so you could do without them if you absolutely didn't want to have vapor trails. But honestly, your flyer is going to fly better, faster for having them. Absolutely. I'm sure it's in the code there somewhere, and if it isn't, it should be. Okay, that is the, these 4 here, or, well, actually 3 in a way. These will be for our thrusters, and I will get to those in just a moment. Now, after that, we're going to want to come back about, I would say, 9 cubes to give us enough room for all of our wings. And there we are, that's the nose. Now, this section is where our cockpit is going to be, and so it's going to be a little bit broader than the rest of the craft. In fact, I'm fairly certain we bring it back as far as this, though I can't be absolutely positive about that. I think it comes back that far. Additionally, I seem to recall that 2 of the thrusters that help with steering, that is these 2, and we'll get them on there now rather than waiting, just get nestled in there. There we go. Nice and tight. Snug, if you like. Now, for the business components, we have the wings. Now, the wings should fit in there quite snugly. Fantastic. I approve. Now, you could make this a little bit wider if you really wanted to. Right now, they're only affixed to a single block, but the reason why I'm confident with that is because the amount of shielding that's at the bottom of the Firestorm, and also the fact that we add extra blocks on top of the wings and underneath the wings to prevent them from coming under immediate fire the moment I start being focused on, as is usually the case. If you are the flyer, be prepared for people to primary you, because you are kind of a threat, let's be honest. Now, let's get the vapor trails on as well, and our bot will immediately become 342% more lethal. Facts. There's science and math involved in that. Absolutely. There we go. And since we're here already, let's go ahead and put the thrusters on as well. Now, these should all fit in quite snugly. However, I'm going to move those back. I think I had them slightly displaced from the top and bottom thrusters. It just made it a bit more visually striking. And I still think it does. I quite like this little bot, honestly. Okay then, now. This is almost functional. We just need the rudders. However, that is a little bit of a query. How did I have those connected? I honestly don't recall. Actually, I probably had something along these lines, I'm imagining. Let's see. Let's build out like this. Now, I didn't include the prism cubes, or rather the inner cubes, simply because I don't generally consider them functional cubes when I'm counting how many I have for the design. I really don't think that anyone really builds these into the design for function. It's almost always for aesthetics, so I generally leave them out of my calculations. I'm just going to adjust this back end slightly. There we go, I think. That looks a little bit better. We'll also have... Ooh, we definitely didn't use them there, but I don't care. We're going to adjust the design slightly. It is my prerogative after all. Oh, no, I don't have enough cubes. Ah, denied. How embarrassing. Okay. Well, we'll just have to go with this then for now. But I'm sure it'll look okay. Let's get these rudders down as well. So already we are straying from the path, but I am certain it will still work. Don't worry, you can trust me. Right, we want a rudder affixed there, and then two on the sides there. Now, I tend to like having the rudders slightly apart, not just on one cube, because the tail of the craft is often the least heavily armored. Definitely the least shielded. So by having them slightly spread apart, you're going to reduce the chance of getting everything shot off with one hit. One lucky hit, I might add. Now then, the cockpit will almost certainly go there, so we can probably look at starting the wing protection, I'd say about here. Let's say that. And we'll do the same down here as well. We'll mirror that on the bottom here. In fact, for the most part, we will double thick the armor. We'll increase the armor plating at the bottom. Definitely worth doing below your cockpit. I've mentioned a few times now that when it comes to protection, you really do want at least 2 layers of armor underneath the cockpit. Otherwise, you are just asking for someone to get a lucky shot right underneath you and take you out of the game straight away. And that is a pretty sad way to go, honestly. Now, on the bottom and the top, let's curve this around like so. We're not going to be able to do it at the top as easily. Okay, we'll push this over a little bit then. There we go. The reason why we wouldn't be able to easily do it at the top is because we need this space for the radar, which I'm going to place in now. But the cockpit is there, so I guess I could have the radar about here if I really wanted to. And I kind of do really want to. We'll give the cockpit a little bit of extra room, shall we? Also, let's pad this out just slightly. I am actively straying from the design now. Not that I went to the effort of writing this one down this time, because it's so visually striking. I'm fairly certain that I can easily recall where things go just by seeing whether it looks the way that I remember it. The moment I see it, it conjures to my mind a memory of the craft in its former days. There we go. Let's pop those there. All right, we're getting somewhere now. Let's dig that back. Same for you. Get all of these cubes out of the way. Okay, as for up here, now, as always, you want a little window. It just doesn't look right if you don't have one, I tell you. We'll want the wing sections to start building out around here, I would say. The top one doesn't strictly need as much protection as the lower section, simply because it's less likely that you're going to come under attack at the top. Now, ideally, what we would have here is an inner, but we seem to be in a bit of a pickle with inner cubes at the moment, or at least I am, because I'm poor. Never mind, we'll do something like that just to compensate for now, and then we'll round that off. Now, a weapon is going to go up there, but before that, we will have a radar dish. Now, typically, I've had a more powerful weapon. There we are. That works perfectly. Well, I say perfectly. It could be a tiny bit better, I suppose, but it'll have to do for now. Right, as for the wings, we can be a little bit more just painting with a very broad brush at this point. I'll draw it out about here, and like so. I'm absolutely certain that this is different to the previous design. In fact, I'm so certain I'm going to cut that back just slightly. My idea here was to do something like that, make it a little bit more shapely. Give you something to look at. You never know. Someone might pause to ponder your beautifully designed bot, and that will give you a chance to kill them. Though you probably shouldn't kill them without at least saying thank you for admiring my beautifully designed bot and thus allowing me to kill you. You know, there's no reason why you can't be polite. There we go, and there we are. Both top wings are now symmetrical, and that is, of course, incredibly important, and anyone who tells you differently is lying. Alright, we actually don't want that to be a T8 gun, come to think of it. We want that to be a T6 gun, because for an Interceptor, you're generally going to be pointing straight at your opponents. So all of the weapons on the top and the bottom are going to be firing, or at least with this particular design, all the weapons are front-loaded, if you like. So they'll be engaging air targets fairly aggressively directly ahead. But when it comes to games where there aren't many flyers, or they've already died, then you don't want your strongest firepower on the top. You actually want your strongest firepower to be on the bottom, because at least then it can serve the dual purpose of taking out ground targets. And they are typically significantly harder to kill because they can afford to have much heavier armor without affecting their aerodynamics. Right, let's continue to build this out a little more. We'll pad these wings out slightly differently. There we go. Again, all we're doing here is we're making a platform for our guns. So there we are. That's one part of the platform complete. We are going to have to be changing this shortly, though. Right, we want that out 2 tiles. So 3 by 2 there. And then another 3 by 2. There we go. This is actually like Lego when I think about it. And then 2 on the far side. And then we've got the pattern replicated perfectly. There we go. And there we are. All right. Now then, we have, for the most part, our ability to fly. All we need is the help for climbing and diving. Now, this design is actually a little bit more efficient than previously. I should probably put the shields on before I get too carried away with that, but let's have a quick look. Now these shields are glorious in that they fit very, very neatly over the front and leave no gaps. Something I am a huge fan of. Alright, is that interacting with anything? No, it isn't. Fantastic. Okay, so there's our primary protection for our thrusters. So we can now go ahead and apply some of these. And that's actually working out better than it was previously. I'm almost certain of it. I'm almost certain that this is a much better design than we had before, at least for the position of the thrusters, since all of the thrusters are now very, very heavily protected by the shield. I am liking that, I must confess. Now, how did we have these affixed? Ooh, just about there. Well, this is going well. I'm actually pretty impressed with myself. I've changed the design, but I do actually think I've made it a little bit better. Now, okay, what we want last then are the guns on the wings. Now, are these going to fit? Yes, on the very, very tips of the wings. That isn't, strictly speaking, the best, because they're going to be easy to be shot off. If you have the cubes available, it's probably worth fortifying these cubes that these guns are attached to, or you're going to find it very easy for your enemy to get rid of these weapons, because they'd only have to shoot one cube right here or two cubes there, and they just disconnect this gun completely. So that's not ideal, really. The closer you can get them to the shield, the better, but with high-tier guns, they need much more room. If these were low-tier guns, if you were perhaps building this for tier 5, you could fit that in just a little bit closer. Now, the final piece of this puzzle is the T8 gun at the very bottom. And we already know that this is going to fit in tier 7 because we are currently in tier 7, which is fantastic. So we'll just get rid of this. Now, previously, I had the bottom of the craft much more heavily armored. We had a much thicker, heavier spine running down the middle, and I think that's probably worth us recreating. That almost certainly gave this more longevity. But of course, we need the Union flags there up on top. Oh, that looks gorgeous. Okay, let's just fortify the spine just a little bit. Don't want to be too overzealous with this part, but any extra protection beneath the cockpit is probably worth putting in. There we go, and we'll just taper it all along. Now, I built this out an extra layer, and the reason for that is to create a platform for the final gun to be affixed. You can push this back if you want to. I'm not actually that much of a fan of having all of my guns this far forward. It's just that the wings necessitate it. But on the bottom, you can pull it back a little bit. It doesn't really matter too much. And that would certainly be true if you elongated all of this out. You could probably have two guns on the bottom. Now, that would be much more useful for a plasma bomber, because it doesn't suffer in the same way the SMGs do, because this craft is designed to fire forward. The rear gun would be shooting the front gun. It wouldn't be actually doing any damage. But with a bomber, where you're typically going to be flying parallel to the ground rather than diving towards it, then having multiple guns in a row is not necessarily going to cause any problems. So you could happily have two, or maybe even more, depending on the types and how creative you can get with the positioning of the plasma weapons. But you could easily have two along that kind of area, and then two underneath the wings. That would give you 4 plasma bombs. That's quite a hefty payload if they're high-tier plasma weapons. But I think that is just about it. So all that remains is to add that one special piece that all bots need. The cockpit. It is actually more heavily fortified than the previous design as well. So I'm actually pleased with that. Let's go ahead, and you know what I'm doing. I can't help it, damn it. It looks awesome. Give it a little view screen. And can I move this forward? I can. Glorious. Alright, we'll change those limbs just slightly to create this view screen effect. Oh, that is fantastic. I really like that. There we are. So our pilot has his little heads-up display showing him where he needs to be. It isn't actually that good. We've got a decent radar for the tier that we're going to be in. Generally speaking, in the sky, it's a lot more by sight than by radar, I find. So having a radar receiver I don't tend to put them on flyers. I really don't think they're necessary. Radar is necessary because you can easily be stalked. Something could just be higher up than you, trailing you, just waiting to get a perfect shot, and that radar would be the only thing letting you know that it's there. But a radar jammer is absolutely essential. I do not recommend you use any type of flyer without a basic radar jammer, but there we go. That is the Firestorm Mark II, and let's just take that out for a quick spin in the practice arena just to make sure that it works the way it should. I'm fairly certain it will. It looks close enough to the original design that I can't imagine it's going to spin out, but we're about to find out if I put anything in completely the wrong place. Let's see. We can't really shoot down that well, but we can certainly take you on. There we go. Of course, your incredibly thin armor is helping us there. And there comes the slowdown as the bots are loaded back in. I really shouldn't kill things in practice mode. I just want to see if I can fly. That's the main thing. But as you can see, we are pretty agile. We can dance in the air. We can draw in the air. Let's see if we can land. Well, kind of. Maybe. Not very well. Pull up! Damn it! Oh, that was almost really embarrassing there. Don't worry, I don't think anyone saw. But there we are. That is the Firestorm Mark II, complete with Halloween wings. But again, those would be Tier 8 or Tier 7 if you really want to. And if you did go with Tier 7, you could probably add some higher tier guns or just higher tier armor. I don't believe you would be able to get away with cladding this in Tier 7 armor cubes. That is those are the yellow armor cubes. Unfortunately, I strongly suspect... Oh, my friends, this is full again. I only cleaned that out earlier. But I strongly suspect you wouldn't be able to fit in Tier 7 if you put Tier 7 armor on this. However, if you pulled all of the wings back to Tier 7 and you pulled all of the weapons back to Tier 7, so you got rid of the 3 Tier 8 SMGs at the bottom here, you might be able to do it. Because you wouldn't have anything then that was over-leveled. Again, I don't really mind bringing in technology that is 1 or 2 levels higher, as long as it can be unlocked in the tier in which you're fighting. That's a personal preference. Obviously, I'm not insisting that anyone play the way I like to play. That would be incredibly arrogant of me, but this is how I like to play, and those are my kind of personal house rules. So I don't mind bringing Tier 8 equipment to a Tier 7 battle, as long as that Tier 8 equipment is... The base equipment is unlockable. So, for example, I wouldn't bring Tier 6 nanos to a Tier 5 battle because you couldn't get Tier 6 nanos in a Tier 5 battle. Couldn't get nanos at all in Tier 5, I don't believe. But I've harped on about that one too many times, I fear. But just to clarify... Right, that is it from me, I think. I do hope you've enjoyed this little build tutorial, and I think the next video I'm going to be doing is probably going to be a new bot. It may involve wings, and yes, it may also involve walker legs. I promise nothing, but I imply a lot. But that really is it from me. I do hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you will be joining me for the next. But until then, and as always, from myself and the Firestorm Mark II, do take care.